Okay, so because your user experience report needs to be in a report format, I figured I'd talk about the different sections of a report, what they are, what I've asked you to write in those. Um, you might notice what I'm talking about in the report stuff from a scientific lab report. Uh, this might be the type of report that you are asked to write in a workplace. Your workplace might ask you to include different things, but for our purposes, your job is to write. Our report has 5 different sections. So the first section is an introduction. The second section is a methods section. The third section is a results section. The fourth section is a discussion section. And the fifth section is a conclusion. The introduction is pretty simple. It introduces your website, users, and any background research on your topic. So you kind of bring your audience into your problem, into the questions that you've asked, so that we know we're all on the same page. The next part is I wrote methodology, but it's really methods. The methods section is where you tell your audience how you studied this problem. Okay. Here, right, it says that it's one of the most important aspects of a research paper because it provides the information by which the validity of a study is ultimately judged. So this is where you say what you did to ultimately study the user experience of your website. What did you do? You're probably going to talk about the user profiles that you created and how you created those. If you did any usability testing, if you did any of the observations that we talked about, and what did you use when you did user profiles? Did you think of a typical user? Did you talk to users? If you did usability testing, like did you ask 4 people in your family to look at the stuff, and what did you ask them to look for? So it really it explains how you studied. It explains what you studied and how you studied. It's really a procedural section. It's where you say, this is what I did, right? So that people can go back to the conclusions you've reached and then decide, is your methodology ethical for reaching that conclusion, right? If you were like, I asked one person, was your method, and you came up with these radical conclusions, everyone's like, what you did isn't that valid, right? Because you only talked to one person. But you're going to talk about the different things you did. And like we talked about in the user, like I talked about in my user experience lecture, you should probably, all of the things that I'm asking you to do are some of those observations, like your own click-through of the website and any other products or social media sites or apps or experiences associated with that. You should be doing user profiles, and then you should, it's kind of optional, I'm not requiring it, but some usability testing just on people that you have, friends or family members, would be helpful for you to understand how the user is centered on the website. So that in the methods section is where you say, here's this background stuff. The results. So there are kind of 2 ways for presenting and organizing your results. The results are, here are my findings. Here is where I just report what I saw. So in the user profile, I saw this. In the usability testing, I saw this. You don't, so here it gives you kind of 2 examples. Present a synopsis of the results, followed by an explanation of the key findings. Or you can present a result and then explain it before presenting the next result and explaining it. The results section is also kind of pretty dry. It's where you say, this is what I found. This is one result. One result is that I saw that users on the website aren't 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 really allowed to communicate with each other. Explain that finding. This is the IRS website, and they have a lot of documents available, but they don't have a lot of places where users can interact. Another thing I found is that the website was really difficult to navigate. In 8 of 10 of my usability studies, the users did not get to the place that I asked them to get to. And so the results are kind of where you report this stuff. This might be and then the next section would be a great section to add any charts or graphics or graphs that you've developed either on your own or that you've screenshotted. The discussion section is where you consider where you really kind of think critically about the issue and develop creative solutions, present underlining meaning of your research, like why is this important, highlight the importance of your study, and engage the reader to think critically about this stuff based on your findings. So whereas the results section is a little bit more, here's what I saw, and you try to be more objective. In the discussion section, you connect this to, maybe this is where you cite the Simon stuff or the Potts stuff about why it's really important to include users and participants and citizens on your website, and how by not doing it, the Starbucks website is really at a loss. So this is where you bring in the stuff and you become more, from my observations, from the results, here are some things that I see going on. And the discussion section is when you're less objective. And in the conclusion, you present your last word on the issues, you summarize some of your thoughts and the significance of this. So what? So what that Starbucks doesn't have a way for users to communicate with each other on their app, right? And that's something to think about. Demonstrate the importance of your ideas, and maybe this is a good place too to expand or think about how the website and the organization could improve on the user experience there. Now, reports are governed by document design. They are professional, they have headings, they include charts, graphs, and images. We write in APA format, and so Purdue OWL has a really great overview of how to do it. So here's their APA sample paper, and all of these things on the side explain some of these things. So they have this heading right here, subheading, right? Another heading, a subheading, and they talk about the different levels of heading. Level 1, most of your headings should be level 1. Like in your discussion section, if you broke it up into 3 different things like this person did, they have level 2 headings. And then, they have tables and stuff at the end, but I would suggest that you put these within your paper. Finally, you should include charts, graphics, and images. So this is obviously a poster and not a report that I have an example of, but you'll see here that these charts kind of help with the information. So probably most likely to be in your results section and your discussion section. These could include, for example, screenshots from the website. Like if you're trying to explain something about how to navigate something, including screenshots are often pretty good there. If you did a usability test where you tallied how long it took each user to get to a certain place in the website without any prompting, that could be a good place for a graph or a chart. And that's the kind of as a technical communicator or professional communicator, that's your job to decide what is rhetorically appropriate. How does my data visualize here? And then finally, going back to APA, this is how we do in-text or citations, the reference list. So here's the basic rules that govern it. Authors, they have examples. So being able to translate any work that you cite in there into that is good too. So I'm excited to read these reports, and the goal here was to make sure that they end up in report format, and then to understand the different parts of what's in a report, okay? So the reports should have all the parts listed here. The parts should conform somewhat to what I've asked here. You should make sure that the document is designed in a certain way. They all have, each section needs to have its own heading. And then they have graphs and charts and images as appropriate. Okay? Thank you.